Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Mad Madam Mel podcast. My name is Mel and you can find me around the interweb as Mad Madam Mel. I am a botanical yarn dyer, originally from County Durham in the north of England, but now we live in the Orkney, or on the Orkney Islands, which are a group of islands off the north coast of Scotland. And I live here with my husband and our 2 cats, Holly and Willow, and a menagerie of chickens and ducks. We have a small holding here and we try to grow as much of our own vegetables as possible, although this year there hasn't been quite so many due to renovation work and building work and such like. It's just been really busy. That, and I've been so busy with the yarn business over the last couple of years, things have taken a bit of a back seat as far as growing vegetables. We still grow some, but not as many as we once did. But at the moment I'm rather enjoying dyeing a lot of yarn. This is primarily a knitting podcast, although I do spin and do other things as well, such as crochet and sewing, but it is primarily a knitting podcast. That being said, let's get on to what will be involved in this month. So I think it's been nearly a month since our last podcast. I did Vlogtober over the last month and I really enjoyed doing it. I was kind of nervous about doing daily vlogs and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to stick with it, but I think there was only one day where I missed entirely and there was another day where there was so little recorded that I lumped it in with the following day's footage. So that went really well. I'm looking forward to doing Vlogmas this year. I'm taking November off from vlogging and to recover, but I will be doing Vlogmas this year, which I'm really looking forward to. We go a little crazy with Christmas around here, so that should be quite fun. So for the rest of the podcast, it will be obviously finished objects, works in progress, and 1 or 2 acquisitions, and a little bit of chatter at the end probably, and just a bit of shop update stuff as well, as I'm planning a shop update hopefully on Tuesday, I don't know what today's date is. This Tuesday. I will double check and I'll put it up on the screen, but I'm aiming for around a Tuesday evening update around about 7 p.m. so I will talk a little bit about that as well at the end. So first of all, let's get on to finished objects. Okay, first finished object was almost finished on my last episode, and that is my second pair of flora mittens. I had completed one of these completely and I don't remember which one, so I'm going to just show them both, and all I had left to do on the second one was the rest of the thumb. I think I was up to, I don't know if they'd even started the second thumb. They are finished now and these are a gift for somebody, so they'll be getting put away. But for these ones I've used purple and light grey, and I'm really pleased with how the contrasts come out on these compared to the first flora mittens I did, which were kind of a mid-green and a pale yellow, and although the contrast was there, they really come out nicely on these purple and grey ones. So I'm really pleased with that. The yarn, let's think about for gift, I'm doing a lot of gift knitting, using up some of my really old stash. Stuff that I've picked up over the years and yarns that I'm not so keen on working with, but I have quite a bit of. So these ones are some random purple, which I have no idea what it is, and some grey, which is a wool acrylic blend. I believe we're blowing out quite a lot on the light here today. I do apologise. I've got this studio light over there and I can't seem to get it in a good position, but I'm trying, I'm working with it. And yeah, so these work out really nice, and as a gift they're going to be easy to look after and what have you. So that is my first finished object for this week. Okay, I've adjusted that light. I'm hoping that's going to be a bit better, but we shall see. Okay, so my second finished object is yet another pair of mittens. Funnily enough, I'm on quite a mitten bug at the moment, and with Ellie's year-long mitten-along, I have a target to reach. So this would be my third finished pair of mittens. These are the pumpkin spice mittens. again by Elia's Skein Dyer. And on the last podcast I had done this mitten, but I had problems. I wasn't happy with the design on the cup, and what I ended up, and I mentioned I would possibly duplicate stitch over the top, and that's what I've done, but one or two stitches still are not very standy outy and some of them are a little bit too prominent now, but it's definitely better than it was. You can actually see there is something on the cup now, whereas before you couldn't see anything. There was just dimples where the stitches were, and the reason for that is when I knit this mitten, what I hadn't took into account was, although my contrast colour is this burnt orange, when it came to doing the cup, it kind of swaps over. There's so much of the contrast colour, the burnt orange, that the beige became the contrast colour instead. So instead of holding, so I had been holding the orange in my left hand, which is for the contrast yarn, which would be more prominent. I had left it in my right hand because that was the main body of the mitten. But when it came to this, I should have swapped them over and put the burnt orange in my left hand, no, the beige in my left hand, because the burnt orange had become kind of the background colour on the cup. So when I did the second one, and I inverted the colours on this one, these beige with orange, orange with beige. And when I did this one, instead, I made sure to swap the hands, and you can see it stands out really well, the design against the colour on the cup. And I'm really happy with it. I'm still not 100% happy with the first one, but it's a lot better than it was. But I love the background of orange and the beige on this. I like them both. When I swatched for them to decide which way around, I couldn't decide which one I preferred, and I still can't really, but looking at this on the camera, that looks really nice with the beige against the orange. And these are lovely. These are a fingering weight. They are what from now on I'm going to call yarn, the yarn that shall not be named, yet we all know the name of, kind of like Voldemort. So my large old stash of drops, it now has a new name, yarn that shall not be named. So this is Little Pumpkin on the bottom, and I think it's Drops Fable, this, but they'll come out really nice. I mean, it's decent yarn, it's nice yarn, it's just the ethics. So that is my second finished object for this week, although I haven't knit all these in the week, it's just this week's podcast. I'm still having problems with my studio light. It keeps, every time I look away and look back, it keeps blowing out. I don't know what's wrong with it. If you have any ideas or any tips, please pop them in the comments below, because I'm really struggling. It's one of those ones with the it's like a funnel-y thing with a screen thing on the front, and rather than an umbrella-y one. And it's not, you know, like a what do you call it? Yeah, kind of like a funnel with a sheet thingy that goes over the front. Any idea, tips on that? Please let me know. Okay, we're into whips next. First of all, we have a half finished object, which is kind of still a whip. I've been doing Halloween knitting over October and autumnal knitting, but I made a Halloween sock, and this is quite a thick yarn I've used on this one. This is my own hand spun yarn, and it's kind of around a DK weight, and I just knit this until I ran out, basically. The hand spun I made towards the beginning of the year, I think it was around January, February time, and the heels and the toes are my yarn, which I should have, and I have the rest of the skein here, and that is my own hand dyed. That's called Amethyst, and that's a merino nylon based sock yarn. And the hand spun was, I had some that Lucky Dip fibre. It came as like a Lucky Dip selection, and I had a few of them and I didn't like the combinations that they'd been made, so I pulled them all apart and re-put them back together in my own combinations, and I put together these 4 colours. So we've got this, which is like a really dark midnight blue, and then this like a it's like a, I would say it's an orange, but it's like kind of slightly light orange, and then you got this lime neon green and this lilac-y colour here. And I decided to make socks with them. So I separated out the fibre, each colour, into 2 sections, one for each sock, and split them. And then for each sock pile, I separated out each of the colours into, I think it was 8. Check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 little pieces of fibre from each colour, and just spun them end to end, like one after the other. And then I chain plied the yarn, and then I took the second pile of fibre, did exactly the same, so kind of 2 self-striping socks. So I took the first mini skein of hand spun, the one with the least yardage, and I made the first sock. And I'm hoping I have enough yardage left on the second skein of yarn for the second sock, which I am just starting the gusset increases on, which is this one. And you can see this is what happens when the light's blowing out. You can't see my little, that's a Fripperies and Bibelots stitch marker, and that's quite cute. I've just got up to the gusset increases, but if you compare that sock with that sock, I'll flip this over, my stripes are kind of shifting a wee bit down here. So I've obviously not separated out the fibre very evenly, but that's not a big deal. As long as they're kind of in the same, as long as we're in the same order, I don't really mind. I'm not a big fraternal twins sock knitter. I like my socks to kind of look, if not the same, then almost. So yeah, so we shall see. Hopefully I want to get this finished in the next couple of days. It's one of those projects, I've kind of had it on the dining table, so whenever I've got 10 minutes over my morning coffee or between jobs, I sit there and just knit a few rows on. Whereas this one I sat and finished off within sort of like a day. This one's taking longer because I just haven't had the time over the last few days. And again, it's the same yarn on the toes and heels. And these are knit on, I have no idea because the size is no longer on the needle. I believe it is, what would they be? Would they be 3mm? They're probably 3 or 325. Do we have a 325? They're probably a 3. I knit almost everything on a 3mm at a double knit weight, which when you've got 3 projects on the needles is a pain in the butt because I have to keep switching my needle tips about, so I might have to get a second set of tips. But I won't be getting the Knit Pro ones. The new needle tips I've been getting have been the Luckier needle tips when I've been able to get them, because I like that they're pretty much the same needle. I like the colours on the Knit Pros, the Symphony ones, but I like the fact on the Luckier ones they've got the size embossed on the what do you call it, this part of the needle tip, so you don't have to get out a needle gauge every time you want to check what size needles you have when you're looking for some needle tips. So that is my first whip at the moment. Next, my second whip is another kind of finished object kind of whip, because it is a mitten, only one of, so therefore not a finished pair, but it is a finished object. This is the Spooky Selbu mittens by Lily of Nordic Stitches, and I have one of her stitch markers, her little pumpkin stitch marker. Let me try to go on there too. She's no longer selling her stitch markers, unfortunately, but I grabbed a few when she was closing up shop, and I had to have a pumpkin one because you can never have too many seasonal progress keepers or stitch markers or yarn or knitted items or decor or recipes or anything. Really, I just really like seasonal things. So these have spider and Selbu, is it Selbu stars, Selbu rose, I can't never remember, pumpkin, and the cutest wee little spider on the thumb. I'm not a big fan of spiders, I have to say. I can cope with them in the same room as me. I can cope with them within a couple of meters of me. I really don't like them on me. Not at all. So yes, that is cute. It's not a real spider. And I have the second one still to knit. I'm kind of playing yarn chicken because I'm using the remainder of the orange from the pumpkin spice mittens to do these mittens, and I only had a 50-gram ball of that burnt orange. I'm hoping there's enough. I'm fairly sure there's enough, you know, touch wood. The green is it's more like a light fingering weight, and it is 100% Shetland wool from a random cone that I picked up years ago. It's probably Jameson's or JC Rennie. You get a lot of JC Rennie. You get a lot of Jameson's up here, being in Orkney, Shetland just up the way, and obviously Fair Isle even closer. So it's nice and woolly, which works really well to help with this, which is obviously not, it's a sock yarn, the orange, which is the Drops Fable, but it's got enough grip to it's definitely got a nicer finish to this mitten than this mitten. This is much more open, but this is a much nicer finish on it. I'm actually really pleased with these. Now I would have been finished these, but the first one I've had to rip out. The first one I got as far as the top of the pumpkin, and I think I mentioned, I'm not sure if I had mentioned, no, I mustn't have mentioned this on the previous podcast. It must have been on Vlogtober. I got as far as here, and I'd been knitting on a 225mm needle, which is the size I would use for knitting socks. But it was too small. I mean, I could get it on my hand, but it didn't feel comfortable. So I wasn't sure what to do. But I didn't have a 2.5mm. I had a 2.75, which I'd knit the pumpkin spice on. But I felt these had a larger stitch count per round, and I felt that the spiced latte ones could do with a little bit snugger. But I didn't have a 2.5mm, so I ordered one online, and I got a 2.5mm came through. And when it came through, I thought, oh, should I just rip out the first one? But I wasn't sure, and John suggested just start knitting the second one, and then you can see how you feel about the sizes then, which is what I've done. So this one's finished, and I decided, yeah, I was just going to rip back the first one and start again. But so I've yet to cast it on. Once I've got the Halloween sock off the needles, then the second of these will be getting on the needles. So yes, that's the Spooky Selbus. So next whip, I've only kind of started. I mentioned on the last podcast that I was knitting, or I can't remember if I'd actually cast on or not, the Umpqua sweater by Kill and Hunter. And I swatched the colours for it, and I found a combination I really liked, which is like a brown and like a deep brown, a pale brown, a foxy brown, and a kind of an olivey green. And I have cast it on. I can't remember if I'd cast on before, but I've only knit like that much. It's hardly worth writing home about. I can show you if I don't drop all the stitches off the needles. I've got that far, and the reason is because I've had a Halloween one to do. But secondly, I am not knitting it quite according to pattern. It is a bottom up sweater. I didn't want to knit it bottom up. So I've done a provisional cast on, and I am knitting the rows above the separation for the sleeves, and then I'm going to knit the yoke. Then I will pick up these stitches and I will knit it top down, the instructions in reverse basically. Also, I've added an extra stitch count, I don't know how to word it. I want to potentially steek it, but I'm not entirely sure. So what I've done is I've added, if I was doing a cardigan, I would do a different bust size to if I was doing a sweater. If I'm going to wear a sweater, it wants to be nice and comfortable and oversized. I don't want it to be clingy. I'm too busty to get away with a tight fitting sweater, especially with a higher neck. It's just going to look terrible on me. So what I've done is put in the pattern repeat, the amount of stitches for the pattern repeat. I've added an extra pattern repeat into the size, which will either be for the steek, or it'll just be an extra pattern repeat if I decide to leave it as a sweater. Like, I haven't decided which I'm doing yet. So what I've also done is, when I've done the yoke, before I do the short row shaping, I will shift the dancing hands, shift the needle and the yarn around on my circular needle to the beginning of the round, because the beginning of the round is kind of here. I can't remember which side, but it's at the back of the shoulder, and when you look on the design you can see the jog of where all the colours change in the yoke. Now I could use a jogless join method potentially, or which would just be, what would be even better would be to move the beginning of the round to the front of the yoke. So if I steek it, now, if I decide not to steek, that means I'm going to have jogs in the middle of my round. I'll have to decide quite soon on, I think. Maybe when I've knit the yoke, I can decide if I'm going to have a sweater or a cardigan. Anyway, the idea being, if I move the beginning of the round to the middle where the steek is, I'll have less ends to wind in, to sew in, but also any jog will be hidden in the steek. Last whip is not a knitting whip, it is a spinning whip, and it's that far. This is some fibre I got from Created by LCB, and it is gorgeous. It is I can't remember. Ha! That's embarrassing. What is it? It is Rambouillet. I could not remember the name. And this is what it looks like before it's spun. It is gorgeous. It is the most autumnal fibre you've ever seen. And excuse the rustling packet here. And have a bag full of it to get through. And it's called Pumpkin Ale. And I'm going to spin all of that onto this one bobbin. And all I've done with the fibre is I have took the whole braid, which runs a colour repeat all the way at the middle and then reverses all the way back out again. I've split the braid into 4 long ways. So it'll go, imagine it's a rainbow colourway, it isn't, but imagine, so we get red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, violet, blue, indigo, blue, violet, indigo, blue, green, and so on, all the way down the braid. All I've done is I've split the braid all the way down lengthways, and then each half lengthways again, so I get full colour repeat and reverse, full colour repeat and reverse, 4 lengths of that, spun end to end on this bobbin, or it will be. And on the other bobbin will be this, which is a semi-solid, Wow, that looks really zingy on camera. It's not as bright as that on camera. Okay, I've removed my light again. Things we have to do. So it'll be applied with this fibre, which is still blowing out and looking really bright. That's pretty close to what it looks like. Yeah. It's not as yellow, that's better. That's the colour it is. Perfect. I've got to put everything right up against the lens. Perfect. There's no yellow in it. It looks like it's got yellow in it. There's no yellow in that. That is not yellow. Let me bring it back here. No, still a bit yellow. I'm going to spin this, which is another 4-ounce braid. The first one's pumpkin ale, this one's spiced pumpkin, and I will spin that. I've just kind of split it into segments. I've not been methodical about it. I've just into manageable pieces, and I will spin that and I will apply those two together, and that'll give me a good 225 grams, 8 ounces of yarn, aiming for kind of a sportish weight. We shall see. Not being too strict about it. I'm just going to let the yarn do what it wants to be, do what it wants to do. This is Rambouillet's lay as well, and I'm going to use this for a shawl, potentially the cobblestone shawl, but I have a few shawls in my queue and in my library, so we shall just see when it's made up what the yarn weight is and what I fancy using it for. The cobblestone's pretty good. I think it's got like a broken rib stitch in it, and it seems to work really nicely with hand spun yarns, so we shall see. So that's my last whip for this week. So let's get into acquisitions, and there's not many, thankfully. There is 1 yarny, 2 non-yarnies. So let's go with the, I'm going non-yarny first because it's close to hand. First of all, I got this book. It's the Handy Book of Top-Down Sweaters, and it is by Anne Bud, and it is rather good. I got this on recommendation, and I can't remember who originally recommended it. Not sure. I have heard about it on a couple of podcasts previous. Oh, squeaky book. That's because it has these things in the middle. It's ring bound. Spiral bound, that's the one. And it basically tells you how to do all different styles of sweaters like these, and how to basically create your own pattern. It has all the measurements and like kind of recipes for making your own pattern, and therefore you could use those measurements and those stitch counts and such like to design your own patterns. Say if you wanted to come up with your own basic cardigan or sweater, and you say, yeah, but I really like this stitch, specific stitch, you could throw it into a basic cardigan or a sweater design from a book like this. I believe there's another one to do with set-in sleeves, similar principle, and it tells you how to do a basic sweater which you can then embellish yourself. So there's a yoke based sweater in here. Again, you could put your own yoke design in it, that sort of thing. So that's going to be really useful, although I have a lot of pattern designs in my queue. So do I really need one that tells me how to make my own pattern? Because, you know, it might be a long time till I do that. But it has adult sizes and child sizes and everything in this, so I can highly recommend this book. Next, for non-yarny, kind of yarny related but not yarn itself, it's a small little acquisition that I couldn't resist. I got the Progress Keepers and Stitch Markers from Lily of Nordic Stitches. You can see her logo there. It's kind of, oh hang on, there it is. Before she closed up shop. So I've got some, excuse the rattling, some mittens, and this rainbow one which I love. It's got like a pink clasp and rainbow, and then these matching rainbow stitch markers. So I have like Christmas ones and Halloween ones. I have two lots of no, I have some honeycomb ones as well, but I wanted a set that was kind of non Christmas, autumn, so I've got to have a set now for summer as well. Not that it's not like I don't use Christmas ones in the summer, because I do, and Halloween ones, but yeah, Halloween all year round in this house. So that's my second non-yarn acquisition. And there is one yarny acquisition, although technically it's like 4-5 balls. So is it one yarn acquisition if it's the same order? Okay, I ordered some Holst yarn, gone. This is 2 of them. I was really surprised how quickly this stuff arrived. Really pleased with that. So I wanted to try some of their bases to see what I really liked and try them out in some different patterns and such like. So I ordered 2 balls of the Super Soft, and I ordered Nougat or Nugget, which is kind of it's a pale grey, but it's got slight warmth in there. It's not, I like cool greys, and this is a cool grey, but this is like a hint, it's like a little bit undertone of cream in that. And this one, which is Venetian, and it is a beautiful shade of deep red. Let me see if I can get it to, it's like that, kind of. No, let's see. Yeah, if I hold it back here, you can see it's it is a deep red anyway. It's not an orangey red, it's a cool red, which is my shade of red. Red is my favourite colour. I love red. I love black too, but I ain't knitting with it. My carpet was black, but that's a bit different. But red is my favourite colour. I love red. So I got some red, and I got that pale grey, and I'm planning potentially on making some festive Christmassy mittens with these for me. There's going to be more left over afterwards. I'm not sure. I'll knit something else as well, but that is the plan. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they come out. It's kind of got, I would put, if I remember rightly, it's supposed to be 50% Shetland lamb's wool, 50% merino. Don't quote me on that. And I don't know, it's kind of, it's definitely on the Shetlandy side, but not as scratchy as Shetland. The Shetland's not over scratchy, but if you compare it to merino or Rambouillet or Blueface Leicester, then Shetland's going to feel scratchy. It's not scratchy like Let Lopi. Let Lopi is scratchy. But no, this is fine. So I got 2 cakes of Super Soft. And I also got 2 cakes of this one, which is the Noble Base. And I got this in Signet, which is this deeper grey than the Super Soft, and this one, which is Eggplant, which is beautiful aubergine purple, obviously because it's eggplant. And these 2 I'm planning on, oh, these are nice, these 2 I'm planning on making a shawl for myself, of course. It's 95% Geelong wool and 5% cashmere. Now Geelong wool, from what I've researched, is merino wool from an area called Geelong in, is it New Zealand? It might be New Zealand. If I'm wrong, I'll put it up on the screen. And 5% cashmere, and it is a really nice soft merino. This is really, really nice, and I believe it is woolen spun, so it's kind of got, it's not as smooth as a regular merino, but we shall see. I'm assuming this has got, it's quite fine. The yardage on these are just phenomenal. This is a 50-gram cake, and it's got 364 yards on this. And the Super Soft has 314 yards for 50 grams. So we'll see how it knits up. I'm planning on a shawl by Lily. This is a very Lily of Nordic Stitches heavy episode. The phobia shawl, and she is hosting a year-long knit along of her designs next year, and there is supposed to be a cast on party. I think it's on New Year's Day at 7 p.m. I'm not sure if that's Norway time or Universal Standard Time. I shall have to double check that. And we're going to be casting on, and I plan on, hopefully, you know, things change, but planning on casting on the phobia shawl in these two colours. So I'm looking forward to that. And the last skein I got of the hulls was a single skein. Another, can you tell I like grey? Grey is my second favourite colour. Red and grey. Red, grey, my favourites. Grey, this is a much icier grey. It's a very cold grey, this, although again blowing out on the camera. And this is the Tides base. It's called Seagull, and it's 70% wool, 30% silk. And so far I'm not impressed with this. I'm not sure. This feels scratchier than the Super Soft, which obviously the Super Soft's got merino in it. This, I believe, is 70% Shetland, not sure. I think it's 70% Shetland, 30% silk, and it's got a scratchiness to it, but that might soften up in when it's been washed. So I have no idea what I'm going to use this for at the moment. It was just to try and see it, and you can never go wrong with, I can never go wrong with grey in my stash. So let's see, chatter stuff. We are still renovating our property. We are hoping to get into the kitchen, fingers crossed, all being well, for Christmas. That'd be great. I can do a little wee tour maybe, depending on how far we've gotten. I am planning on doing Vlogmas. We did Vlogtober, and I did quite a lot of bits and bobs over the month. We've had onion marmalade making, everything from onion marmalade making to apple pie making to growing garlic to, I don't know, I made a little bit video on how we grow our garlic as well, so that's a bit of a standalone video, so if anybody wants to know how we do that, so you know, feel free to go look back on the Vlogtober videos past, and looking forward to the Vlogmas ones, which won't be that far away. It'll only be about 3 weeks or so left to go. Next weekend I'm away with the Vi Queens roller derby again. Every time I think that's it, us done, not going off the island for the rest of the year, something else comes up. So we are playing against Edinburgh's roller derby team and Fear and Loathing, and I think it's our second official game. Is it our second? I think it's our second one, and it will also be the second one I will be NSOing at. And NSOing means non-skating official. When you have a roller derby game, which is called a bout, you have to have a certain amount of referees and certain amount of non-skating officials. So I am going to be scorekeeper, which is what I did last time, and I'm looking forward to it. We get to have a whole weekend away, so we'll be going down on the Friday night Aberdeen overnight boat. We have to have a whole boat to travel all the way overnight down to Aberdeen on the ferry for like 7 hours, 8 hours, and then a short trip down to Edinburgh from Aberdeen. We've got the game that afternoon, on the Saturday afternoon, and then we're a night in Aberdeen at the after party, not in Aberdeen, in Edinburgh even, for the after party, and then travelling back north again via Aberdeen again on the Sunday, and a 7-hour boat trip home. One of the disadvantages of living on the island is the time it takes to get to and on and off the island, and the expense. I mean, you can fly, but it can get quite expensive flying. Although if you can time it right, it's not so bad. So I've got that coming up in the next week, and I have a shop update coming up this week, so I'm working my little cotton socks off. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about what I've got coming up in the update, just hang around in just a moment. So if you've watched my Vlogtober videos, you may have seen some of these colourways already, because I dyed them about 3 weeks ago, but life has just been very busy and I haven't gotten them out there. So you may have already seen these. I have some new bases and I have some colourways, some regular colourways, which would be in the Etsy shop and in my local yarn shop, but I'm bringing some colourways in that I've only been in the local yarn shop, and also some new colourways, just because Christmas is coming. So first up we've got one of my favourites, and this is Pumpkin Picking, which is gorgeous. I've kept 2 of these skeins back for myself for a spike sweater. And this is on my Blueface Leicester nylon high twist base, and you can see it's got like gold and green speckles and little bits of gold, orange in there and such like. And I've got another colourway which has only ever been in the local yarn shop, and I put it on a new base. This is called Carnations, and this is on a single superwash merino. And it's got speckles of burgundy and gold and kind of like a dusky pink in that one. That one's Carnations. Also a new colourway, which I don't know if this one came out slightly different to what I'd planned, but I love it anyway, and I'm really happy with how it's come out now. So this is on a sparkle base, so that's merino nylon stellina, and it has got burgundy and plum and green and gold speckles in that one. And this one is called, I can't remember. This one is called Season's Felicitations. That's it. And if you have ever watched the old 70s TV series The Good Life, which I believe in America was called Good Neighbours, which was about a couple who decided to go self-sufficient in suburbia, and their next door neighbours, that was Tom and Barbara, and their next door neighbours Jerry and Margot were quite what's the word I'm looking for, they weren't overly keen, I don't think. Anyway, Margot is quite, I wouldn't say snooty, but kind of snobbish. And there's on the Christmas special episode, her husband walks in on Christmas morning to find her on the phone speaking to one of her friends, obviously. And instead of saying like Merry Christmas or whatever, she says seasonal's felicitations. And I just thought every time she says it, every time I watch the Christmas special episode, it just tickles me. It just, well, that whole program just cracks me up. But every time she says season's felicitations, it's just hilarious. There was a joke on the Christmas special episode. It's become classic. And their neighbours, they had made their own homemade party crackers. I don't believe it's an American custom, but it's definitely a UK custom. You have like a party cracker, and you hold each end. One person holds one end, one holds the other, and you pull this. It's like a tube with a banger in the middle, and it goes bang. And inside you have like a party hat and a little joke, a really bad joke, and a little piece of plastic tat, you know, like a plastic mustache or something random like that. And Tom had made their own crackers because they were trying to be self-sufficient, and Margot and Jerry go around for Christmas and they pull these crackers, and inside there's these jokes and mottos and such like that Tom has wrote, and Margot reads out her joke and she doesn't get it, and she just comes out with it in this posh, very posh English accent, and she says, the ooh-ah bird is so called because it lays square eggs. And she doesn't get it, and everyone else is cracking up with laughter. And every time I hear her say it, it's hilarious. Yeah, anyway, so she says Season's Felicitations, and that's what this is. Season's Felicitations. And finally, I've got some of my usual colours, my semi-solids on a new base, which is a 100% BFL. And just 3 of the colours there. This is a non-superwash, and we've got Amazonite, Ruby, Kyanite. All 3 of those. I think there's 2 other colourways as well that I can think of, ready to be listed as well. So those are non-superwash tonals. There are other colourways as well, but that's just a selection. So I think that's it for this episode. It's gone on a little longer than I'd planned, but these things do. Hoping to podcast more often, although I'm pretty sure I say that every single time. I have some sewing I have planned. I've just ordered some couple of Colette patterns, which they've got their printed patterns in the sale, so I picked up a couple of those. Guys, I have a big stash of fabrics that need using up, basically. I have more yarns to dye. I've got some ideas in here, and lots of knitting to do. I've got another pair of mittens planned for another Christmas gift, which is the Scandinavia mittens by, again, Lily of Nordic Stitches. And I'd like to do there's a couple of Christmas ones by Ellie. There's a one with like a reindeer on it, and there's another one with like a Christmas window. One or other of them I'll use the Holst yarn for. But also, I mean, I've got some Christmas spinning and Christmas socks to do, and there's just lots of things I want to do. So it's just too many projects and too many ideas whizzing through my head constantly, and just not enough hours in the day to do it. So I hope to see you again soon. If you want to catch me anywhere, links should all be down below, and I hopefully will speak to you again, all being well, next week, but if not, certainly within the next 2 weeks. So feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. So until then, bye bye.